So what's up, nutrition nerds? I'm not long back from a week in Spain. Back here in sunny, beautiful, warm England. Alright, maybe not, but I am back home. I raced at the age group European Championships at standard or Olympic distance, and I had heaps of fun. I thought I would share a little bit about the experience as well as my nutrition plan during the race. So yeah, Valencia for the age group European Championships. This was my first time racing any sort of international age group race, so I didn't really know what to expect. Well, other than expecting to get totally smashed by the guys in my age group, and spoiler alert, I kinda did. But first things first, I had to get my bike out there. Have you ever taken your bike abroad in a bike box? Man, it's stressful. Packing your bike along with all of the admin stuff for coronavirus, booking the tests, the travel forms, vaccinations. But my bike got there okay and I put it together again without any real issues, so that was a pretty good start. The weather before my race though was a little bit on the grim side. It started absolutely bucketing it down. Thunder and lightning. I was kind of thinking, do I really want to race in the morning? But actually by the morning it was much better. It was dry and actually it was quite nice. It was a non-wetsuit swim in the harbour, and actually pretty good for that. The sun was rising up over the buildings and coming down into the harbour. Waters were nice and calm, can't really complain. I swam about 25-40. Nothing special, but as a non-wetsuit swim, I was pretty happy. Now the bike was so much fun. It was a 3-lap bike course, which was pretty twisty at points, and had a fair few 180s in it. But there were some really good sections where you could just get your head down and go, and in general the road surface was fine. The race did actually start off a little bit dodgy for me, as a couple of minutes in I went over some tram lines while I was on the bars, and my right armrest just dropped down, and I just had that moment of being like, that's it, race over, done. But actually it was alright. It was slightly out of position, but okay enough to just be able to get on with it. I rode 102 for it, which was pretty comfortable, and I came off the bike feeling pretty good. The run was also heaps of fun, and that was mostly because of the crowd. Loads of spectators, shouting, cheering. Generally, it was just a great atmosphere. And shout out to the bunch of Spanish guys, because they were amazing. They had British face paint, and they had flags and bells. Loved running past them every time. I ran about 42-30 for just over 10k, which I was pretty happy about. It wasn't super quick, but I've had some issues with my run this year. I had an Achilles injury which put me out for about 3 months, and I've had some problems with getting a stitch in the middle part of my 10k during a triathlon, which have been really slowing me down. But in this race, no stitch, felt super comfortable, and actually I probably could have gone a fair amount harder, but I wasn't worried about my time and just wanted to really enjoy the experience. Overall, I finished in 2 hours and 14 minutes, and I was 16th out of 28 in my age group. And as someone who went into this race with absolutely no expectations, I was stoked on. Alright, so with a little bit of the recap out of the way, let's move on to my nutrition plan for the race. Firstly, I made sure to carb load from about 36, maybe 48 hours from my race. I've talked about this before in other videos, but for a standard distance triathlon, it's super important to carb load, and to carb load properly. The carb load went perfectly and I had no issues with it. I scoffed my face for 2 days while watching the sprint triathlon, as well as just chilling out and relaxing. This exercise thing, it's not bad, eh? Breakfast before my race was a rice pudding with a banana and some sultanas, and I had an electrolyte drink a couple of hours before my race as well. I bought a couple of tins of rice pudding with me so that I made sure I had some before I raced for my breakfast. I'm presuming the Spanish do rice pudding, but I just didn't want to risk it. In the hour or so before my race, I started drinking a carbohydrate-based electrolyte drink, and I probably had about 20 grams worth of carbohydrates from the drink during that period. And about 30 minutes out from my race, I had one of the new Science and Sport Beta Fuel gels, which contained 40 grams of carbohydrates. In T1, I swirled my mouth out with that carb drink, because salty harbour water is not a particularly pleasant taste when you're racing. And then had a few swigs of it before I went out on the bike. I had another Beta Fuel gel about 10 minutes into the bike, and then that was it for the rest of the bike. Back in transition for T2, I had another couple of swigs of my carby electrolyte drink before heading out on the run. That was me then done for nutrition, but the only other thing I did was at every single aid station, I just grabbed a bottle of water and splashed it all over my head. This just helped to keep me cool and actually was perfect because I didn't feel particularly hot during the run. So overall, I took somewhere between 120 to 140 grams of carbohydrates during the race, so probably somewhere just under 60 grams of carbs per hour. As I mentioned, I've had a couple of issues with getting a stitch during the run part of my tries, so I wanted to just make sure I kept things simple and only took on what I really needed. It works brilliantly for my race, and I didn't have any issues with feeling like I was running out of energy or bonking, so I was super pleased with that. You might have noticed that I didn't take on heaps of fluids during the race either, and that was by design. Again, I was conscious of the stitch that I've been having, but hydration for this race wasn't a top priority for me. Yeah, it was Spain and it was hot, but my race was early enough that it wasn't going to be absolutely roasting. And by going into the race well hydrated, I wasn't really worried about hydration during a 2-hour race. I probably had a couple of 100 mils during my transition periods, and that was grand. Overall, I was so pleased with the race because everything just went well. I wanted to enjoy it, and I absolutely did. In the couple of days after my race, I spent some good quality time with my partner. We went on a nice hike, a super cool bike ride, and just generally did some touristy things. I'm pretty sure I was the slowest person on one of those rented bikes that you can get to go around the city. My legs were absolutely fine. It was just like pedaling through custard or something. I was just looking at people like while they were cruising past me, just like, I am an athlete. And of course, while we were out there, we had some delicious food too. I tried a few new dishes, including an acai bowl. I think they're more native to Southern America, but they were tasty. The whole trip was great, and as a first international age group race, I had a blast. If you've been considering doing some age group stuff, then I would definitely recommend it, no matter what your age. The triathlon community is always fun, helpful and supportive, and the atmosphere is just incredible. Let me know if you were in Valencia to race as well and how you got on. And if you weren't, but you're considering doing some age group stuff, then let me know too. Anyway, that's probably about it for today's video, as you've heard me waffle for long enough. If you enjoyed the video, then I would really appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing to this channel. Normally we go through more specific nutrition topics to help you race faster, and you'll find plenty of videos on that. Remember to press the notification icon when you click subscribe to get an alert whenever I release a new video, and remember that subscribing is free. And I will catch you next time. See ya.